So while we are trying to lead, we're also learning ourselves because I think we all know that sustainability is very much a journey.
Hi, everyone. John Failla here, and it's great to be with you again for a conversation with Maria Grandinetti Milton, who's the Director of Sustainability for the DP World Tour. And for those of you that have followed the podcast, you know that we've had a couple of different conversations with Maria. The initial one was an introduction to the very broad and comprehensive sustainability program that they have in place. And then there was a brief update from my visit at Wentworth for the BMW Championship, which Maria was so gracious to include me at. So, Maria, it's great to see you again. And for those listeners that have not listened yet to that first conversation with you, maybe you could give us a brief overview of your role at the DP World Tour.
Absolutely, and thank you for having me back. So my role at the DP World Tour currently is the Director of Sustainability, and that is across the 3 tours that we have, as well as the Ryder Cup. So we look after Ryder Cup European opportunities and versions. And prior to that, I was in the partnerships team, so heading up partnerships. And a long time before that, I was in rugby. So a bit of a background in sport more broadly. And then in 2021, the tour created a CSR, so corporate social responsibility role, which was really sort of looking at what we did, looking after G4D, so Golf for the Disabled, where we created a tour, charity, and then starting to think about what we did from an environmental responsibility perspective. So throughout the years, it's sort of evolved and we've created a bit more of a strategy behind what we're doing and how ultimately we look after how we stage our events from a social and environmental responsibility perspective.
Great. And as I've said previously, and I don't say this to everyone, so this is not to butter you up, but from a sustainability standpoint, there's no question in my mind that what you're doing at the DP World Tour is kind of world-class, cutting edge. You're by a demonstrable margin ahead of any other entity in the golf world that I've seen in terms of not only having a commitment, but executing meaningful programs. So
thank you.
I appreciate the opportunity to continue to learn about what you're doing and share it with our listeners. When we met together in Wentworth this fall, there were a couple of new things that you mentioned that I'd like to give you an opportunity to get into, and maybe we'll just hit these one at a time. The first is your rollout of the championship charter, which I think it's a brilliant platform and model that tour operators can follow to embed sustainability in their events.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this was something that we have worked on for a good few months. It's taken a lot of legwork, not only internally, but working with our partners, the Geo Foundation for Sustainable Golf, to really look at how this document can serve us to the best of its abilities. And what we really wanted was to create a bit of a blueprint for anyone who's trying to stage a championship to do so in the most sustainable way, because I feel like that's where, if you look at the broader golf ecosystem, that's where our experience really is. We are a global tour and we have to stage championships across the globe. We have around 42 events in 25 countries. So what an event looks like in one market can be very different in another. But there are some really basic entry level considerations. And I think one of the big barriers for many people is feeling either overwhelmed or not understanding what that might look like. So we've really tried to break down those barriers and create a bit of a blueprint for anyone who's trying to stage an event to factor in sustainable considerations. So again, across key categories of water, waste, transport, freight and hauling, how can you minimize the emissions related to that topic? And again, without getting too market specific, there are some really easy wins that everyone can factor in and learn from. So looking at sort of entry level, then, what's the next step? What is more advanced? And then finally, what does best practice look like? And we see this being incredibly useful for us as an organization, internally when we have new people starting in the operations teams who might not know about it, but might be expected to get up to speed pretty quickly. This will be a resource for them. Equally, we would like it to go to some of our promoters who perhaps are starting on their journey and again are faced with so many other challenges, whether they're commercial, operational, climate change. We're all up against it in so many different ways. But again, we hope that this will serve as a bit of a helpful guide for them as to how to start their journey from a sustainability perspective. So we launched it in September at the BMW PGA with our promoters. And since then, we've had quite a few sign up to it, which we're delighted with. And our events are also fully signed up. So it's definitely moving in the right direction. And there's so many ways and places that this can go. We didn't want to get too hung up on what the end goal was. We wanted to get the information, the documentation sort of down and start socializing it. But there's loads of places it can go. So I see this as definitely being something that has created a bit of a line in the sand for us around what our expectations are and where this could go. We'll have to see.
Yeah, it's really, it's great to see. And, I think we've talked about this before, but based on my, 15 plus years of experience in corporate sustainability, there's what I refer to as the 4 stages of enlightenment related to adopting sustainable practices. And that first one is having an awareness that you should be doing something. The second stage is maybe trying something that can both be more sustainable and save you money. So you recognize that being green can make more green, which leads for people to do more and put in place a comprehensive program. But then that final stage is one of leadership and mentoring, where the focus of the program then becomes on helping others get on the path and move them along the path. And you're clearly at that latter stage. And I think that the charter that you've developed really provides a very, very helpful tool that will make it easy for people to get started.
I really hope so.
I look forward to hearing more about the progress and what other tours are doing with this program.
Thank you. I really hope it's been really well received from the variety of people that we've spoken to. And I think even just, again, with so many different countries that we're operating in, language can be a barrier. And we don't want sustainability language to be a barrier. We want it to be easily digestible by anyone. So we hope that it helps everyone move forwards. And I like your sort of 4 stages. I think we are definitely in 2 or 3 of those categories. So while we are trying to lead, we're also learning ourselves, because I think we all know that sustainability is very much a journey. And, if it was a tick box exercise, then, that would make it easy and it wouldn't be nearly as fun.
Yeah. Well, you never stop learning. I mean, that's part of the fun. But on this question about language, it just prompted a question. Have your events, are you standardized around English, or how do you handle the language barrier as you're involved? I think you said 45 countries.
Yeah, so we've got 42 events in 25, 26 countries. It really depends on the model of the event, because often there are local teams running the event, but where our sort of central team is involved, then usually the common denominator and language is English. There are often bilingual people who are able to bridge the gaps. It certainly makes it easier for us when we have and recruit people with multiple language skills under their belts. The more, I think also, you'll know this, so much of language is also about understanding another culture. It's not just the actual language. And I think that's something that we all have experience in, understanding how different cultures work and operate and how to work with them to give them the best opportunity to thrive and to also, help get where you need to go. We can't just sit there in our little offices in Wentworth and expect everyone to behave and operate the same way that we do. So we have to be very nuanced and aware of that. So yes, I think language is typically English from Wentworth, but then there are plenty of other people to speak. many other languages.
Yeah, that's a great point. The cultural issues are just as important as the language issues. So it sounds to me like there's an opportunity for an AI model that takes these programs, translates them, adopts them to cultural sensitivities of each market, packages it, and rolls it out.
I think there are many, many opportunities for AI at the moment. But hopefully we won't lose all of the good human intelligence, which we certainly rely on and need, I think.
Great. Well, listen, great. Good luck rolling that out. And I look forward to learning more as time goes on. We've talked about how powerful a motivator recognition can be in getting people to adopt sustainable practices. And you rolled out a global sustainability awards program that I'm really excited about hearing an update from you on. So how did that first edition of the Global Sustainability Awards program go? And tell us about where you are with it.
We now have 2 years under our belt, which I think is amazing in terms of the evolution that we've had, I guess, since we probably last caught up. We launched the Sustainability Awards last year around the Middle East end of year season championships. And our aim was really to target the Middle Eastern suppliers. We have 3 Rolex series events in the Middle East. It's a really important region for us for many reasons. And it felt like a really sensible decision to look at that market in isolation. It went really well. We were delighted with the feedback, the interest, the appetite, the applications. We worked hard on the judging process and what that all looked like internally. And then with the view of growing it a little bit more globally this year. So again, we were able to expand all of that, and we targeted 3 territories. So we had Europe, Middle East, and then rest of the world. The reason for that was really that we've got 2 other Rolex series events, which are sort of our big top tier events. That's equivalent to the FedEx series for the PGA Tour. And we have 2 of those in Europe, and we know that Europe's such a strong market in terms of its environmental responsibility. So we have Europe, Middle East, and rest of the world. And again, that was across 5 categories. So we brought in technology alongside innovation partnership for 1, catering, venues, staging, and operations. So opportunities for all of our suppliers and also then our partners. So we were really bowled over with the entries. We had 12 winners. Not all categories were completed, but that's okay. I think it's important to be honest about that. It's great for us to understand where there is a lot of appetite for driving sustainability forward, and equally where there are opportunities for us to reach out and see what we can do to try and drive this in the local market. So we had some really brilliant winners, really brilliant entries. It was very competitive across quite a few categories. And we will be working with all of the winners now on case studies so that, again, we can circulate and share that best practice. So it's been really wonderful to see the various winners posting on socials and LinkedIn and talking about how proud they are, because that's really wonderful. That's exactly what we want. We want to hero them and to spread that sort of goodwill, and for them to feel motivated, because they do a great job. And we're very lucky because ultimately we have around 2,500 suppliers across the tour, and some are bigger than others, but it's really great for them to feel rewarded and and in turn motivated and incentivized for us to keep heroing innovation and to driving things forwards. That's the only way that we'll all become stronger. So yeah, it was really great. We held it in person at the DP World Tour Championships. We had a Q&A this year with Nick Doherty, who's a Sky broadcaster, and he also used to be a player on the tour. And he spoke a little about what sustainability meant to him, what he's seen as an evolution on the tour over the last 20 years or so, from being a player to now being a broadcaster. What Sky are doing from a broadcast perspective, and a little bit around remote production and some of the areas that they really care about, which was really insightful. And then obviously looking at some of the work he does from a community impact and charity perspective in the golf industry. So it was brilliant. It was lovely to have his perspective, really engaging. And then we ran into the awards, which were live streamed for anyone to dial into across the tour. So it was great to have that globality and to have that step change. So yeah, we're excited to see how we can drive it on forwards. But I think there's a lot of people within the tour who are really motivated to make this bigger and better, which again it's really rewarding to have that support.
Congratulations. I mean, it's wonderful. And two things you're doing that. When you use the term, we want to hero them. I mean, making people on a local level who are making it sustainability happen in their environments and in their events and at their courses, making them heroes is really the key. Putting them up on a pedestal, they're proud, their families are proud. It inspires their competitors to want to be like them. So making people who drive sustainability the hero in our story, I think is dead on. So really glad to see you doing that. I also want to applaud you for the flexibility that you have in the program, because from launching awards programs in several industries around sustainability, what you start with is often not what you end up with, right? Because the submissions may need to be different. You find out based on response what is really more likely to resonate with people. So the fact that you're open to evolving and tweaking the event as needed gives me great confidence that this is going to be a big, successful, growing program. So great to see that.
I think we all have appreciated the agility that we have, which we know doesn't always exist, but it's something that we've had to deploy, when you go back to sort of COVID times and, look at how we had to adapt. I think that's a mentality that stayed with us, for the good. And I think that's something that we're very fortunate, because I know that not everyone has that ability to pivot and adapt and be agile. So yeah, I think it's a good point.
Excellent. Well, listen, kind of similar along those same lines, but somewhat different is what you've done with forums to try and help socialize these best practices. And you launched sustainability forums in Scotland and Ireland. Tell us a little about those. How were those organized? What were your lessons learned?
Yeah, absolutely. These came around. We a couple of years ago at the Genesis Scottish Open, we decided to get sort of a handful of key stakeholders together to discuss sustainability, and it was a handful of people, but it was an important meeting and conversation, and it's really grown from there. And we're very lucky that we've got very engaged stakeholders in Visit Scotland as our government stakeholder. We have the Geo Foundation for Sustainable Golf just down the road. They're based in North Berwick. And that doesn't necessarily matter, but I think it really helped bring everything together. And then we had Scottish Golf, who, as an engaged national federation, had an appetite to try and drive their sustainability agenda forward. So it came together really as the perfect storm, where we were able to triangulate between the national government, the local federation, and then leveraging the professional game. So it was a really brilliant triangulation, is the word that I sort of keep falling back on. It's going to do the triangulation bingo for you, sorry. But it was a brilliant opportunity for us to talk about the sustainability in golf agenda, and to help the government drive their agenda forward from a sustainability perspective, and for them to realize actually how golf as an industry is collaborative and it is joined up. We've got the professional and the national game in one room, all talking about shared challenges, concerns, opportunities, solutions. We had two brilliant panels in Scotland. One was focused on sort of golf clubs and climate change, and the second was golf's role in the community. So again, not just the planet element, but also the people element. And there was one man talking about wind and sort of the destruction and the havoc that had been wreaked on the golf courses on I think it was the west coast of Scotland. And someone was there from a local forestation company who was able to answer his question directly. And having that sort of the breadth and depth in the audience of either national golf clubs who were able to help solve a problem if another club had it, but equally then all the various government agencies who were in attendance was really, really powerful. So I think it's something that we definitely want to build on. And we had a pretty similar experience in Ireland, where we worked very closely with Golf Ireland, who are really advanced in terms of their sustainability strategy and what they're looking to achieve. They have a very, very different setup. And for them, the priority wasn't as much to sort of speak to your local clubs, because they were already doing that, but they wanted to engage with the government a little bit more. So again, it was a bit of a different audience, but similar approach in terms of the collaboration and again, triangulating the local federation, professional game and our event, and then engaging with governments to tackle a variety of topics around energy, biodiversity, water, etc. So again, really pertinent topics that covered other areas within government, so looking at agriculture and other areas. So they were both of them brilliant events, very different fields, different agendas, but again, just leveraging golf and sustainability and helping drive the local federation's agenda. So for me, it was a brilliant opportunity to work collaboratively with them and for us to be able to talk about things that we needed to. And it was really powerful. We had over 100 people at both events.
Wow.
It was amazing. And all the clubs in Scotland were invited. So 560 clubs. In Ireland, again, slightly different. They have around 360 clubs, I believe. So a pretty big, both of them have huge numbers of people to talk to and engage. So anything we could do to help drive that forward is only a good thing.
Yeah, great program. I have had an opportunity to talk to the folks from Golf Ireland, and they're doing some wonderful things. And in fact, we'll be recording an episode of the podcast with them next month. So I'm real excited about that. Will you be doing the one at the Genesis Open again in 2026?
That would be telling. We are working towards something, yes.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. Seeing what might work. But yes, I very much hope that will be one we build on. I think, and we'd like to try and bring in a couple maybe in some other markets. So again, we're just trying to understand at the moment where might make sense strategically for us, for the national, either for our government relations or for our federation relations. So work that at present, very topical.
Yeah. Well, my 2026 travel plans are falling together, and I do plan on being at the Scottish Open this year.
Oh, very good.
So I will volunteer my services to help with the program if there's anything I can do to help you out.
Excellent. We will definitely pick this up offline.
Great. Okay. So finally, let's talk about. So you've really established clear leadership in the world of golf, and you're now looking to, in terms of your continued journey, learn more from other sectors of sports. And you've recently joined the UN Sports for Nature Collaborative. What's that all about? Why did you do it? What do you hope to get out of it?
So the United Nations Sports for Nature, it's a call to action, effectively, for any sport that has any interaction with nature to join forces and focus more on restoring nature, protecting nature, and really trying to leave no negative impacts on nature when sport is involved. So it's similar in a way to the United Nations Sports for Climate Action Pledge, which is very much focused on climate action and reducing emissions. But to me, golf and nature are so intertwined. We wouldn't have golf as we know and love it. There are so many versions of golf, and what golf can mean to people is very varied, and it should be very varied. It doesn't have to be 18 holes, the traditional game that perhaps you and I know and love. But I think equally that is intertwined with nature. There's no way about it. You can't argue that. And it wouldn't be the same if we didn't have nature. So for me, it's always been a case of when are we going to sign this, not are we going to sign it. It's vital for us. And I think if you're focused on nature, you're also focused on sustainability. So for me, it's a duty. We can't not sign this. It's absolutely the right thing to do. We know that we want to focus more on nature. Now that we've got our sustainability operations more in hand, we know that nature is the next area to focus on. And that's not only sort of unpicking what happens on our courses from a narrative perspective, because there's an incredible storytelling angle. when you come to Scotland, the animals, the flora and fauna that you will see in Scotland will be extremely different to what you might see, if you were to go to one of our events in South Africa, where there were lions on the tee the other day, or you might have there's all kinds of nature in South Africa that the broadcasters always end up sort of capturing and interrupting coverage with. And then, more recently in our new event in India, the DP World's India Championship, there were peacocks all over the course. I think it was something like 400 peacocks on course. So again, there's an incredible story to be told, which I think will really help with engaging fans, because ultimately, if you're caring about nature, you are caring about the planet. And I think that is where it's exciting for us. I think there's a duty of care from a tour perspective to be considering nature and to join with our sort of the golf ecosystem in joining up on messaging. So I think we're the first tour to sign up, but there are already plenty of other people from the golf industry. So again, aligning with them and coming together, I think it's really important that we have that collective voice. So whether they're federations, whether they're other clubs, the RNA are also a signatory. So working together, will be really important for us. And then looking at that storytelling opportunity and the communication opportunity. So we've already run a couple of scavenger hunts at some of our events, and really just using that as an opportunity to engage with children who are on site to help them connect why they're there, to the sport, and then the sport to the nature, and for them to learn and understand, and for us to start so gently trying to influence that next generation and help them realize that they're so important to each other. Well, nature is so important to sport. So I think for us, it's going to be a really interesting journey. It's something that we signed earlier this year. We haven't been able to sort of unpick it too much and look at our strategic priorities within the sort of the nature action. But that's very much a big piece of work for us going into next season.
Excellent. Well, okay, so you're in the early stages of that, and I guess when we talk next year, that'll be one of the things to expand on. I'm impressed, Maria, with each of these programs, the charter, the awards, the events. There's clearly a sense of strategy behind each of those individual initiatives. And your program's always evolving. Is there any update on your overall sustainability strategy at the DP World Tour? We clearly have a sense of strategy for these individual programs. I'm wondering about the big picture.
Absolutely. And I think we first launched a strategy specifically on sustainability and the Green Drive in 2021 when we signed up to the United Nations Sports for Climate Action. In 2022, we shared a bit more of an update, and we have been working this year on sort of a second edition or an updated version. Again, I think it's funny reading it back now. Some of the language feels dated already. So I think the sustainability industry is just moving so fast that it's important that we keep it up to date in terms of targets and direction and specific priorities. So we have gone back through and we are releasing an update at some point over the next couple of weeks. And it will be a lot clearer on, I think, some of our target activities rather than a broad brush, we should be doing this. It will be a little bit more specific, as specific as you can be when you have a business model that can evolve, where we might have tournaments one year, we might not the next. So again, we can't get too granular, but we should always have that sort of North Star that we are working towards. So we will be releasing our updated strategy. It will be a lot more specific, and I think go into a lot more detail around, areas that we can control, where we might have partnerships, and there might be some ability to influence, and then broader areas that we would like to try and support. So just breaking it all down a bit more and being specific, showing where we want to go.
Yeah. Well, that kind of leads into a final question I have for you, and that is, in terms of the future and where things are headed, you've always got a trick or two up your sleeve. What will we be talking about a year from now when we're getting an update going into 2027 about sustainability at the DP World Tour?
I very much hope that we will be talking about the impact that we've had from a nature perspective and what we've managed to achieve in that across the tour. And I also hope that we will be in a position to expand on some of the successes, because I think what we have done to date is be more focused on the events that we have. But as a tour, we have plenty of other events that we don't own and operate. And I would love to feel like we are more joined up as a tour and that we have more global successes to share. So very much working on how we can, when I'm asked what are my two biggest sort of challenges, it's how do we take what we're doing and scale it, and how do we commercialize it, and how do we scale it. So those are things that are always sort of top of my mind, which is why the charter and the sustainability awards have come into play, because again, the more that we can take something and scale it, we can't just focus on one thing and hope that the rest will improve. I think it's a continual piece of work. So yeah, looking at that scale and really focusing on how we can support and create solutions for people that help them wherever they are on their journey. Sometimes that might be bespoke, and other times there might be a simple solution. But I hope we'll have more stories to tell you next year.
Oh, I'm sure you will. Given the challenge that you've stated about how do we scale and commercialize, I often think in terms of triangles. It's neat to put concepts down into 3 points. And I think that the charter, the awards, and the forums, those three things can really work very effectively together. And the thought of at some point having forums in, half of the 26 countries, and entries on the awards from, all of the events, and having the charter adopted at, more than 50% of your events. That's the plan you're rolling out, I think, is going to be very effective at tackling those challenges that you referenced.
I hope so. The more we do, the more that people will be able to see the potential.
Yeah. Have you secured sponsorship for these programs, which would help you accelerate the expansion, or are you funding all of these programs internally?
That is a very mixed question. We have a variety of partners who are involved and do support it. And then, yes, we do fund some of it ourselves. So it really varies. And that's something that we're always working on. Everyone's trying to commercialize everything.
Yes.
As they should. So yes, it's something that we are in continual conversation with, and always open conversation around.
I suspect a regular question for you, Maria, is, Maria, how can we get these events sponsored?
Exactly.
Well, listen, the work you're doing is great. You've made incredible progress. Always wonderful to speak with you. And thank you so much for your willingness to share the great things that you're leading at the DP World Tour and the area of sustainability.
Well, thank you so much for having us again. It was great to catch up with you.
And to our listeners, thanks very much for joining me. I know you've captured at least 2 or 3 ideas that you could adopt either at your events or at your clubs to help advance sustainability in your part of the world. If you enjoyed the episode, please tell your friends and colleagues about it. Any help you could give us to broaden our reach and audience would be greatly appreciated. Thanks very much for joining me today here on the Golf Sustainability Podcast. Check us out on LinkedIn, Instagram, and X. Have a great 2026, and we hope you'll join us on future episodes of the Golf Sustainability Podcast. Thanks very much.